So astrology can be approached on many different levels. For some people, it's just a form of entertainment. And that in itself is pretty harmless. It's pretty benign. Yeah, if you use astrology for entertainment, as a lot of people who watch my channel do, I think that's great. If you're going to be entertained by something, might as well make it be something that could be also educational. That's fantastic, right? Like the Discovery Channel, like you learn something, you have a couple of laughs, and it's great. It's a way to pass the time. But other people use astrology as a more meaningful kind of way of communing with the divine, and they see it as a spiritual language, and that is taking astrology to a deeper level. And I just want to clarify, there is no implied hierarchy here. I really don't think that there's one better astrology than another, but what I'm gonna try to say with this video is that as we learn and develop astrologically as students of astrology, our astrology that we practice not only reflects our level of understanding of astrology, but it also reflects our consciousness. And I also don't mean that hierarchically. I don't think that any level of consciousness is superior to another. I'm not trying to set up a hierarchy because I'm very anti-hierarchy right now. I'm on my anti-Capricorn trip right now. We're not going to talk about that. We are going to talk about is how, as we develop and grow as students of astrology, and even though I'm an astrologer today, I will always consider myself a student of astrology because I'm a student of life, and the way that I interpret life has a lot to do with my understanding of astrology. So let me introduce you to what I'm calling the 4 levels of astrology. You're welcome to argue with me in the comments. I appreciate intelligent arguments and debates. I love debating with people. You can read my comment section. Okay, so when you first start learning astrology, I really see you as a little baby who's learning how to play checkers. You're learning how to play checkers, and you're really understanding, like, oh, we have the sun sign, we have the moon sign, we have the houses. And even though this is, like, for some people, this is already pretty advanced, learning that there's a moon sign and a Venus sign, what? It affects your relationships. That in itself already feels like, for some people, that's already like, whoa, man, there's like other things other than my sun sign, right? And that in itself is pretty advanced. And I don't think checkers is a fun ass game. I love checkers. I love playing checkers. If you know checkers, you're already like, you're in the game, right? You're getting your hands dirty. You're playing, you're doing something. And so when you're learning astrology and you're at that level, you're at the level of labeling, right? And this is how cognition works. This is how learning works. When you first learn something, first you need to learn, what are these things called? And at the very first level of your understanding, you're just labeling things. Note here that there is no synthesis there. This is very mechanical. It's kind of like bullet points. Yes, like and even if you know certain words like chart ruler, but if you don't know what it means and what it does in a sort of more synthesized way, you're still at the checkers level. These are all of the vocabulary words. You can learn all of the vocabulary words and still be at the checkers level. And remember, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You need to be very good at checkers before you can move on to chess. But spiritually, this is like you're just labeling things and you're not seeing it as, a system of divine guidance. And here you are identifying, labeling, you have some like surface level insight. Like you might be like, oh, you have planets in the 8th house. Oh, you're mysterious. Oh, you have this going on, right? And this is a very important part of your development as a student of astrology, as a person who's using astrology for, self-actualization or for personal growth, right? So that's a very important part of your journey. And questions that you might ask yourself at this level are, what is my sun sign? What is my moon sign? What does it mean to have Venus in Scorpio? What does it mean if my planet is in detriment? What does it mean? Is it bad if my Mercury is retrograde? Oh my God, my Venus is retrograde. What does this mean? What does that mean? Is my sun in a bad house? Are there good and bad signs? These are all questions that we might ask ourselves when we are first on that first checkers level of astrology. And your mindset here is you're really asking of the system, of the game, tell me who I am. Tell me what's good and bad about me. Tell me when I'm going to have good luck. Tell me when I'm going to have bad luck. You're asking a lot of questions. And as always, do not let this mean that I'm trying to say like, oh, you're a baby. I would never say that. I love teaching at every single level. I think that there's something to learn at every single level. And coming to astrology with new eyes is just like very exciting for me. So I love the basics as much as I love like the more complex things that you can do with astrology. So now let's move on. Then we're gonna go to chess, right? Full disclosure, I don't know how to play chess. People have tried to teach me. I can't pay attention along. I need my little notes so that I can know what each of the little like pieces mean. Whatever, that's just me. I do know astrology though. So once you get to the chess level of astrology, you're doing the integrations, right? You're learning like, oh, you're learning aspects. You're learning rulerships. Like maybe, yeah, like you have a Mars in Leo, and so that should be very proud, and you should be very, some people would describe you as creative, very outgoing. Some people would even say that you're arrogant when you have Mars in Leo. But that Mars is like conjunct, it's maybe conjunct Neptune, and so maybe you aren't in that way, right? You're not in that checkers sort of description, that basic labeling Mars and Leo way. Why? Because you're already at the chess level, and you're able to see that the planets are interacting with each other. You're looking at rulerships, you're looking at maybe even chart configurations. Oh, this person has a yod, this person has a stellium. These are also vocabulary words, but you know what they mean and what the implications are for the chart, for the individual, right? So this is already the next level. There's greater depth in your understanding and in your interpretations. So already when you're at this level of playing chess, I think you could read charts for people. I think that doing astrology, a lot of people are just like, how do I become an astrologer? You do astrology for people and they give you money. That's how you become an astrologer. And to be an astrologer, you have to know how the chart is working together. The chart has a lot of movement. There are a lot of moving parts, right? And so when you're doing chess, you already have the moving parts. Spiritually, astrology becomes like the art of storytelling and psychological understanding. Here, you're already understanding the motivations that people have. Like, oh, like this person's Mars is interacting with Uranus. This is why they could be a bit inconsistent. This is why they need so much freedom. And you're really building that depth. And already there, when you're doing this synthesis and this integration of all of the components of the chart, you're already pretty damn good. You're already playing chess. Nobody would argue that like you suck at astrology if you're playing chess, right? The keywords here are integration, complexity, interconnection, deeper identity. You're getting to that deeper identity of what is found within the chart, right? And questions that you might ask at this level are, how are my sun and moon interacting? That's very important. Sun and the moon are the two very important, they're the lights of the chart. They're a very important component of your natal chart, right? So when you're already here and you're playing chess, you're asking, what does this mean? How are they interacting? What does it mean that my chart ruler is in the 8th house? I have a T-square. I have a yod. What does that mean? What are the implications for my life when these things are present? I have a water-heavy chart. How do I balance that out? Why do I feel more like my moon sign than my sun sign sometimes? These are the questions you're asking, and you're finding the answers to these questions because why? You're going deeper and you're building that meaning that is more than the surface level. You're not just labeling. You know, like my old videos where I was just like, you got Venus in Scorpio, you got Venus in this. That was me playing checkers and showing everybody around me how to play checkers with me because I love checkers. There's nothing wrong with checkers. I love checkers for real. Like that's a whole other thing. What is my chart story? These are all the questions you might ask yourself. And your mindset here is, help me understand the internal dynamics that are going on within my chart. Like how is everything functioning together and what does this mean for me in my life? Help me make sense of myself, right? You're asking the astrology to help you make sense of yourself and your life and the things that you've gone through, for example. And then this is where we bring in then we get to 3D chess. We get to 3D chess, and these are the nerds. These are the nerds that are, and I mean that in the best way. I love nerds. Nerds are hot. These are the people who are doing your classical astrology, like your prediction. These are the, why am I calling it classical? Traditional astrology, Hellenistic astrology. These are the people that are obsessed with all of the rules that are very much like, well, yes, but the Time Lord of the year was this, 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 and this. And I talk like I don't know that. I know traditional astrology. Like, I just don't use it. I don't use the terminology as much as maybe a traditional astrologer does. However, this is already, you're going to the next level, right? And what I mean by this is you synthesize the natal chart, but you're also seeing that the chart keeps moving. Your chart is not static. Like when you were born, you weren't just like born and you just like stayed there as a little baby. Because if you did, then you would have died, right? You didn't. You kept growing. So your chart is a picture of the sky the moment you were born, but that sky kept moving. And that movement, it keeps symbolizing something. And so the people that are here at the chess masters here who are playing 3D chess, these are the people that are integrating all of these things that we just said, all of the labels from the checkers component, and then all of the synthesis from the chess component. And then they're just like, okay, I see all of that, and then I raise it to the next level. That's why I think it's like 3D chess. And these are the people who are also including transits. They're including progressions. What is your progressed moon phase? They're looking at the solar returns. Solar returns are my favorite. That is what I mostly use. And the transits. Now I'm obsessed with transits. You begin to see the rhythm, the flow of life. You begin to see that it's not just about you, that there are things going on that are generational, there are things going on that are part of synoptic cycles, the synods, right? The cycles that are cyclical, that happen every 50 years, every 100 years. The planets align in a certain way, and it means something for society, right? But it also means something for the individual. And so when you're including all of those layers, baby, like you're doing 3D chess. To me, that's 3D chess. But this is where you begin to perceive rhythm and timing, yes, but this level, and this is my current beef with astrology, but that's going to be a whole other video. This level still includes judgment. I'm sorry, but it does. It includes judgment because the kinds of questions you come to astrology with at this level are questions like, is this a good or a bad time? Is this a good time to start a business? Is this a bad time to start a business? Is this a favorable period for XYZ, right? What will happen to me? These are the kinds of questions you ask. And when you ask questions like that, you are still judging reality. And so it is my opinion that you're still like limited by the constraints of Saturn. And a lot of people will be like, Denise, like you cannot escape the constraints of Saturn. Saturn rules objective reality. I realize that like the level of talk that I'm having here, like, I don't know if you guys are even going to watch this or people are going to be like, Denise, like, please stop. Please go back to the compatibility videos. Guys, I'm sorry. This is what I want to talk about. And if you're going to come along with me, you're going to come along. And if you're not, you're not. It's fine. Okay. So when you are at this level, you are a wizard. Yes, you are a chess master. You're playing chess on the 3D scale, right? However, there's still a board. It's still a game. There are still winners and losers. Why? Because you're still tied to the constraints of Saturn reality. And I used to be the biggest freaking Capricorn rising with Saturn and Capricorn would be like, Saturn rules objective reality. You cannot deny reality. But what I realize now is that, baby, there are different levels of reality. There's Saturn reality, everything that you can see and touch. And then there's ultimate reality, and ultimate reality belongs to Neptune. And I finally understand that. Ultimate reality become like, you get there, right? Through Uranus, and then you get to Neptune. And so what I mean by this is that there are different levels of consciousness, right? And when you stay in this chess master 3D chess level, you're still on the board, right? You're still judging what is happening as either good or bad. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing to do. I just feel like it can bring limitation and it can bring a lot of denial, avoidance. And so there's an awareness of divine timing because obviously you're doing 3D chess, you're looking at the movements. So you're in tune with the divine. Like you get it. You get that there's stuff that is meant to happen and you're paying attention. but there's still a bit of a desire for control because you're still trying to see like, well, yeah, I know, but what can I do to make money right now? But like, what can I do to find a husband right now? But what can I do? Like, when am I going to find the love of my life? You're still asking questions like that. And so in that way, you still want to have kind of control, right? And so the keywords for this level of astrological understanding and of awareness is like time, cycles, forecasting, and navigation. And those are all good words. Like, these are not bad words to have in your understanding, right? These are not bad questions. But like, I'm trying to like push you to the next level and see what could be there at the next level. So your mindset here is that you want to know what's coming. You accept that things are coming, but you want to prepare. You want to evolve, like you want to grow, right? Like, you're still paying attention to what's going on with the planets, but you still like, you want to avoid discomfort. So you're like, no, I'm going to like try to I'm going to see what the transits are telling me, and you know, like, you're still going to do what you're going to do. A lot of people are still going to do what they're going to do, but they just want to be aware, right? But if you still have a level of fear, because Saturn is very much tied to fear. Saturn is not all bad. I need an entirely different video about this. But when you're here, I think that there's still a different level that you could reach for. After 3D chess is level 4. And I really struggled with what to call this. One of my friends, we always used to argue about stuff like this. She would always talk to me about the 5D, Denise, the 5D, the 5D. And I was very much a Saturn girly at that point. So I did not understand. I was just like I get it, like I see what you're saying, but I'm not there yet. Once you have 3D chess, then you reach for 5D chess, which is like you're on a whole other plane, right? And you're listening to the divine messaging and you're open and all of these things. Then I was like, if you're still playing chess, you're still playing a game. There's still winners and losers. So I don't think, to me, that made any sense. So I was like, no. Once you get to the 5D, it stops being chess and it turns into a mandala. Like, I'm just like, it just turns into a masterpiece. And I really feel that at this point, the board disappears. Once you get to the 4th level of astrology, you gain a sacred perspective and you kind of surrender to the divine. And you start seeing yourself and your life and your development and your surroundings, everything. You start seeing yourself through God's eyes. Have you heard of that before? The whole thing is that if you saw yourself through God's eyes, you would experience like ultimate bliss and happiness, because like God is love, right? Like, there are a lot of things that the world religions disagree on, but the one thing that kind of overlaps everywhere is that God is love. And if you were able to see yourself and see your life from this greatest perspective, and I know that like people like to laugh and be like, oh, like God is not this man with a beard in the sky. If you could imagine that man or woman or that being in the sky looking down, there is no judgment. There's nothing but love, right? And if you could see and look down at yourself and your life from that divine perspective, you have ultimate freedom. So the game metaphor dissolves at that stage. The chart becomes kind of like a sacred portrait of the divine through you. We're all just here to raise our consciousness and to, how Ram Dass said, walk each other home. If we're all just here to walk each other home, right? Home being like heaven, oneness, like just like spiritual union, right? If we're all here to do that, then it really behooves us to let go of all of the judgments and all of the things that separate us, right? Because remember that like spirituality is oneness. That is what spiritual means. Anything that is spiritual is something that is unifying, that brings people together, brings everything together. It's a unifying force, right? Anything that divides is anti-spiritual, right? And so at this point, you are in touch with your divine intelligence and you're kind of just like flowing through your human life. You're not asking for predictions. You're kind of just listening for messages from the divine. And you're not trying to control anything. You're just kind of seeking communion with your higher power, with the universe, with God, whatever it is that you want to call, the ultimate creator. And spiritually, at this point, astrology becomes like an act of devotion or peace. And you kind of seek to have presence, like in your body, in your life, and in connection to all of the cycles that are going on around you. And that's why it kind of like, it made me think of a mandala, all of the different cycles that are, reflected in the image, and there's dark and light, and it all kind of adds together into something that is beautiful and meaningful. And it's just like, it's a freaking mandala, bro. So the keywords here at this stage of your astrological understanding are devotion, co-creation, surrender, presence, and soulfulness. And the questions you might ask yourself when you're at this level is, what is life asking of me through this transit? And you kind of just sit there and you're just like, what is life trying to do? If in case you haven't come across this understanding of that we are all fractals of God trying to experience him or herself through us. And through our life, we are meant to ascend our consciousness, right? And so everything that is happening to us is meant to grow us spiritually. And so if we are able to situate ourselves in each moment and just ask, what is life asking of me right now? Then we can surrender, because we'll see oh, this is what life is asking of me. Sometimes our life is gonna beat us down. Sometimes it's gonna be shitty, and what are you supposed to do during those times but become stronger, right? There's nothing else to do during those Pluto transits. I'm gonna make a video about Pluto transits very soon. So another question you might ask at this level is, what sacred lesson is unfolding through this pain? What is Pluto trying to teach me? What is it meant to strengthen in me through this? What is Saturn trying to teach me through this? What is Saturn trying to strengthen and support and build a foundation in my life through this transit, right? How can I align more deeply with my soul's timing? If you haven't watched my other video on the 2 different types of time, I will link it in the description. There are 2 different kinds of time, bro. What does my chart reveal about the medicine that I'm here to carry? What it is that you're bringing to the world in order to help heal yourself and others? How can I hold this with reverence rather than resistance? Resistance is the thing that kills you. And so when you learn to surrender, when you learn to give in to God's plan, essentially, really, because a lot of times I was guilty of this myself. I tried to use astrology as a way of doing what I wanted to do, because I was just like, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm going to do what I want. The planets don't control me. Even when I was an astrologer, I did not believe in fate. I did not believe in hard fate, because I was like, no, I believe in soft determinism. And we can just look at the forecast and see what's coming up, and we can prepare for it. I still can look at the transits, and I still will from time to time. If I'm not super tuned in, I do need to look at the transits to see what's going on, right? And that's when I'm asking myself, what is life asking of me right now? What lesson is kind of on the board right now for me to learn? And so the whole goal of reaching this level of astrological understanding, I really feel, is, for one, to make us happier and to make us more free and to help us to surrender to what is meant to happen in our life. It can bring a lot of peace. And the mindset here is, I'm in a living dialogue with God. I don't need control. I need presence, right? I really hope I didn't entirely go off the rails here, even though I kind of did. People used to accuse me of having just clickbaity astrology videos, and now all I want to talk about is consciousness. I'm sorry, it's all I want to talk about, and all of my clients have been hearing it. I've been telling everybody to meditate, and I just feel very annoying at this point. But now you guys had to get it. So that's the video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And as always, as I think I said in the beginning, in the disclaimer, none of these levels are wrong or superior. This is not a hierarchy. I don't want that to be a thing that you get from this video, or that I'm trying to say. I don't think that there's any, if you're doing astrology and I make compatibility videos. I obviously like the fun checkers type of astrology too. I love me a checkers game. I love to go to what is that restaurant called with the biscuits where they have all the board games? Cracker Barrel? I love to go to Cracker Barrel and play checkers. Checkers is super fun. Chess is hard. I'm not a chess master at all. Astrologically, I can do it, but I don't want to. It's not fun for me. I like to have fun. And however, once you get to the 5D level of understanding and once you erase the board altogether, there's a lot of freedom there too. So that's the video, guys. I hope you like it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will see you very soon. Bye.